All right, it's another beautiful day. It's 5 o'clock in Big Canoe.
Welcome, everyone. I will start with some unpleasant news. Big Canoe suffered a significant loss yesterday with the passing of Ken Rice.
All right, it's another beautiful day. It's 5 o'clock in Big Canoe.
Okay. I will start now with some unpleasant news, unwelcome news. Unpleasant news. Big Canoe suffered a Big Canoe suffered a significant loss yesterday with the passing of Ken Rice. Ken was an icon of the community. His innumerable contributions through the 48-year history of Big Canoe are going to be sorely missed. We wish Ken's family well in this difficult time. A couple months ago, I announced I wasn't going to be the president, wasn't going to be a candidate for the president of the board for next year, and we started working on some transition items. The work session in August was chaired by Regis. In September was chaired by Candy. And this month it'll be chaired by Lou. So Lou, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, and welcome to the POA work session for October 2020. We're now into the final stretch or the fourth quarter for 2020, and I just have to stop and ask, has everyone had enough for 1 year? From Australian brush fires to West Coast wildfires, to the record number of hurricanes in the Gulf. Then the coronavirus impacts worldwide health, and a second wave is now predicted, along with the global recession that I'm sure will result. But 2020 has really been a uniquely challenging year. We here in Big Canoe, though, continue to enjoy and share a remarkable quality of life. And in 2021, we understand that continued improvement will require some nimble and some diversified strategies. And the earlier we can adopt and adapt, I think the better off we all will fare. We have a really informative agenda this afternoon, ranging from public safety initiatives, community awards, master plan updates, and a lot of information in between. So moving forward, we'll have the administrative report from General Manager Scott Air.
Thank you, Lou. So let's start with the dam update, and you gotta watch how you say that, actually. But the dam update. I have in front of me a 25-page report as promised. I didn't know it was going to be 25 pages, but kind of shows you the thoroughness that Underwater Construction Corporation spends. So we did the dive last month to inspect the sluice gate. They inspected everything from the crank at the top of the dam to every single foot of the linkage that goes down to the sluice gate, every bracket that holds the linkage that goes down to the sluice gate itself, the channel for the sluice gate, all of those things. So after 25 pages, it always amuses me. After 25 pages, they give you about 3 sentences, and I'll read the 3 sentences. There was 1 foot, which is amazing, actually, wonderful thing. There was 1 foot of mud and sticks around the sluice gate, which was removed by the diver. The findings of this inspection lead us to believe that the gate should be operational in its current condition. So I think we checked 1 large box off on the gate. The next thing we need to do is to make sure that if you open the gate, the water has to go somewhere. It goes into a 36-inch concrete tube that runs underneath the dam, underneath Playfield Park, and then comes out into that stream bed, and that is called the lower outlet tube. We have arranged for an inspection. A camera crew will be coming out in the next 3 weeks to run a camera up the 800-foot length of that tube and make sure that all the concrete seams are intact, that there's no intrusion, that there's no microbial growth or anything like that that would cause any type of a clog or anything of that nature. That's the next step in making sure that the whole sluice system is operational or can be operated. At that point, Geosyntec will prepare a report and a plan to say, this is how we recommend you open the sluice gate. It's not get a bunch of guys up there and turn the crank and see what happens.
Join the meeting.
It is very carefully opening certain amounts, monitoring the water flow, having a plan in place just in case there's anything that would prohibit the gate from closing again. How do we block the continued flow of water out of that outlet tube? Those type of things would all be part of their comprehensive plan. In addition, as we reported, I don't know, probably 2 months ago, they are preparing a 3-year plan for us. It will be a risk adjustment, maintenance, and operational plan that will lay out all the steps that they feel we should take both in the next 3 years and honestly forever in terms of operating and maintaining the dam. So they'll have risks and costs and things like that. We project that we'll have that by the end of this year, but the sluice gate area was the first thing we were starting with. So that is going well so far, more to come. The next thing that I'm really, really excited about, actually, this idea was created by Lou, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, actually. It was called, the idea was, let's establish a professionals collaborative at Big Canoe. Because what happens is, when we have an idea for forming a committee, when we have a special project that we need some help with, or quite frankly, if we have an opening within the POA staff, we're often scratching our head trying to say, who knows who and what kind of skills do we have here? And does anybody know anyone that can do this and assist with this activity? And we thought it was time to maybe formalize that process and put a system in place that makes it much, much easier to make that happen. Bob Littell joined in on that project after Lou got it started. And then our IT guru, Justin, has actually created the system that we're going to launch, I believe next week, that will actually allow property owners who wish to serve in either a committee function or just a special project, or maybe they want to work with me in the POA permanently, I don't know. You can raise your hand and say, this is my skills, this is my background, here's my picture, and here's my resume. So I think Justin's going to actually show us a little bit of what that looks like. And there you go. So basically, there will be a link. I'm sure it will send it out on email. It'll be a link on our website. And you can basically say, I am very interested in filling out this form. I can put in my first name, Justin Bowers, for example, my email, my phone number, my lot number, all of these key pieces of information. Justin, do you have a beautiful picture of Justin, or are you going to skip that? I'm not sure. Let's see, we're skipping that. Okay. So, and then you could say, you know, what is my skills and what, oh, we are going to do it. Thank you.
Look at that.
What is my skills and my expertise, you know, small business ownership? Do I have, we're always looking for folks that have marketing background, folks that have any type of public works, architectural kind of background. And how would I like to serve? Is it a volunteer for a one-time thing? Is it, I want to do a 3-year commitment as a committee member? Or in Justin's case, this literally happened. He raised his hand a year ago, very lucky day for us, and said, I want to become a member of the POA. And then you can kind of fill out what you did and how you did it, what are your contributions, and put in a resume, just like you would if you were applying for any kind of a job or something. This goes into a very robust database that Justin has created. And then what it will allow us to do, those of us behind the scene who have the secret password, we'll be able to look at this and sort on information. For example, who has architect background, who has marketing background, who has finance background. You know, are they raising their hand to say, I want a bigger commitment or a smaller commitment or anything of that nature? We'll be able to sort on all that information. And then we as a POA or we as a board can reach out and contact people. And I think it'll be a much, much more efficient way of finding out the wonderful people that live here and the incredible skills that we have among property owners, and roping some more folks into serving your community, because that's the best way to get involved, is not just to sit on the sidelines and post something on Facebook, but say, nope, I'm jumping in with both feet. I want to be part of this. I want to contribute. I've got some skills I can bring to bear, and raise your hand. So this will be the professional registry of resources that will be coming out as early as next week. So look for that. And thank you very much, Lou, for creating the idea. And thank you, Justin, for actually being able to turn it around and create it. So it's pretty cool.
That's impressive.
Let's talk a little bit about amenities real quick. So the clubhouse, we were happy to be able to bring back curbside back on October 1st. We're doing about 25 orders a day, which is pretty nice because we have the full staff in place now. So those folks would be serving you in the dining room largely anyway. So this is great from a financial point of view. It's also really nice because there's a bunch of people that are still not comfortable with indoor dining or even veranda dining, and as the weather gets colder, it's a little harder to sit outdoors, right? So this gives everybody an option. Right now, I would say, Robert would say that the menu is a bit limited. We know it is. We have moved in the summer. You may recall me saying we had front of the house difficulties with staffing of servers and hostesses and things. Now it's back of the house. So welcome to the world of restaurant management. This is kind of what happens. So we're looking to fill some vacancies on the back of the house. As soon as we can do that, we'll expand the menu a little bit. We also came out with a fall menu with some changes on it, such as some things like good Southern food, like fried green tomatoes and roasted corn and seafood chowder, which is good on a cold day. My personal favorite, which they kept for me. No, it really wasn't for me. But rainbow trout is my favorite. I haven't done the rainbow trout. Do it. It's really yummy. So a bunch of new things you can try. And then there's been a lot of talk about Thanksgiving because normally it's a huge day for us here at the clubhouse. Given the executive orders around COVID, we really can't implement it. It's just not safe. That's normally a buffet. You don't want to be doing a buffet in this situation. We really can't, as well as just the amount of people to put in the dining room. However, we are food and beverages working on a Thanksgiving pickup menu. More details will be coming out about that within the next week or so. There's already some folks, if you're interested, go ahead and call Dot Grogan. She's already taking some reservations. So you'll be able, over a course of several days, to get a complete Thanksgiving dinner, cooked, ready, provided for you by the clubhouse, and you'll be able to pick it up and just kind of keep it in your fridge and be able to watch football instead of cook on Thanksgiving Day. So we're not leaving the community hanging. The other thing, Robert and I were talking already about the winter ball. We believe we are coming up with a way that we can still do that safely. It will probably be more nights with smaller groups, but we want to do the winter ball. So we'll find a way to do it well and do it safely and still have a little bit of fun at the end of the year in our beautifully decorated clubhouse. So we all need a little light, as Lou said, at the end of the year. So we are trying to find a way to do that safely. Racquet Club, we have some good things happening. Clay tech conversion is fully underway. So those two egregious courts are being taken care of and will look good. We're also getting quotes on the indoor tennis remodel at this point in time. If you haven't been in there, it needs remodeling. So we're taking care of that. And we're about ready to actually go out for a request for proposal to 3 vendors for the bocce courts. So we're at the point now where the spec has been signed off by the community and the bocce community and the leadership team that was driving that, and they've done a great job. We've located 3 good vendors who have experience in just doing this and doing it well, and talked to some references and things. So the request for quote is going out. And last but not least, Creek 9, Regis will be talking a little bit more about that. But given the overwhelming, wonderful news about the vote, we are now proceeding to sign the very first contract, which is, as planned, some engineering work for dredging on Disharoon and Sconti and getting the EPA and state of Georgia permitting in place to do the bit of dredging we have to do around those 2 lakes, and that was included in the 2.33 million. And like I said, it's just the first step in a very intricate plan that we're laying out, but the step is happening. So got to start a journey somewhere with one step. So that basically concludes my report at this point in time. And I would ask the board if there's any questions at all.
Any questions for Scott? Thank you, Scott.
Great.
Great work.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to have Ricky Jordan, the fire chief for Big Canoe. He's here to update the community on some major equipment considerations. Ricky?
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right, good. Well, thank you all for the opportunity to be able to present this. I've got a few slideshows. I think Justin's going to pull up for us that kind of goes through a little bit about the fire truck bid specification process. We've concluded the process earlier in the year. We were given the go-ahead by the board to move forward with the presentation or the preparation and specification sheet for designing a fire truck and acquiring bids and proposals from manufacturers. So if you want to go ahead, Justin, with the first slide there, we comprised a committee of firefighters that all work within the Department of Public Safety here, and a lot of experience, not only driving, operating, but using fire apparatus, but very familiar with the territory and the terrain that we have here. So we pulled together our own internal committee to develop a specification sheet, and we did that. So it took a couple of months due to the COVID, kind of slowed a lot of our meeting process down, but we were able to get a comprehensive spec sheet put together of about, I think it came out to about 88 pages total. You can go ahead, Justin. 88 total pages on the specification sheet. We sent that out to 6 vendors. We ended up getting, we actually sent it out to 7 total vendors. We got 6 vendors response and 6 proposals back from 5 different vendors. One vendor actually sent 2 specifications for 2 different models that they offer that they wanted to be considered. All right, Justin, good. We built a grade sheet to grade the specifications against our specification sheet that we sent out to grade their response, and based upon that, the grade sheet was about a 980 to 990 point grade sheet. The top 2 competitors ended up coming in within 4 points of each other. The others were 50 plus points away. And during this process, when we done the grading process, we actually brought in John Kaufman from the Finance Committee to be as part of the review process with us as well, to ensure that there was fair grading and bidding, and ensure that the bid process was followed, and to make sure that all the grading aspects were done as they should have been done. All right, Justin. So we've done a final review of all. It come down to 2 finalists that were in there based upon the grading sheets and the specifications and how they met the specifications. Out of those 2, we met with Jane and the Finance Committee representative, John, again, and reviewed the fire trucks, not only comparing the bids at that point in time with the grade and the spec sheet, but also compared pricing and delivery time frames. Both of the finalists that we actually come up with were actually the 2 lowest bids that were submitted, which was kind of surprising, but and then there was a $22,732 difference between the top 2 finalists on our bid. So both companies offer multiple financing options, some prepayment options, and some discounts, and Jane's currently working with the vendors to determine what those best options may be. And the final evaluation we looked at was the delivery time frame. Currently in the industry, 9 to 12 months is normal, and we currently had one vendor provide a 355-day time frame, and the second vendor was 245 to 250-day time frame, so about 8 months. So that was a much better delivery time than we were afraid of. We actually had one that was 18 months, so out of the bids. Due to the grading score, delivery time, local service center, and it was the lowest cost bidder, we recommend, the committee, fire truck committee recommends award of, if approved by the board, the 10-8 fire equipment. They're located in Forsyth, Georgia, and for a Pierce custom 4x4 fire truck for Big Canoe. Total cost on the bid was come out to $524,638, but that's before any prepayment discounts that may apply. Jane is working with them to determine what we're eligible for. A lot of that depends upon the type of financing and if we prepay 100% or if it's just a chassis prepayment. They do provide the 245, 250 days of delivery from contract approval and the construction agreement. And Jane is currently working with those vendors for financing options. So with that, anything else or any questions for the board?
Okay, if there's no comments or questions, we'll move forward. Thank you very much, Ricky, for all the due diligence and hard work with this project. I look forward to reviewing it. Next on the speakers is Mr. Crouch, and he has some information regarding the Windstream Service Award.
We are now a 1 gigabyte community up there with communities like Atlanta, up here in the North Georgia mountains with all of our characters and our character. The upgrade is really timely because more and more property owners are working from home. I talked to Windstream this morning and 45 owners have already signed up for the 1 gigabyte service. This is in addition to those that have just upgraded their service in less than 1 gigabyte. Unfortunately, it highlights those few streets that do not have this service. The POA didn't fund any improvements to obtain the service
Join the meeting.
we currently have for current customers, but is working with Windstream to obtain estimates of the cost. What is it going to cost to extend that service to those in need? The owners in Windstream can then assess what the options are and how they can go forward. That's it, unless anybody has any questions.
No questions from the board? Okay, on to the next. And I think, Justin, you can help me with some slides here because we're going to just briefly touch on voting in our 2 neighboring counties. When I first decided to put this on the agenda a week and a half or so ago, I was really concerned mainly with all of our new residents. And I guess it was right at the onset of when it seems like the state and a lot more advertisements you're seeing now and information and reinforcements now appearing, I guess, on your TVs. But I wanted to particularly, as I said, reach out to new residents and just reinforce this information for residents in both Dawson and Pickens counties. Next slide. First off, from the Secretary of State, this is a great website. If you haven't been there, it's a little bit too late probably to register, but you could still check on a whole variety of information that you might be interested in as far as your ballot status on down. Next slide. And that's the website that Mr. Raffensperger has been advertising on local TV channels for some time, but it really is a useful website. I've verified my voting status on it and hunted around so I can brag on it. Next slide. As representative for Dawson County, I just wanted to know, let the residents who are also residents, let them know what the schedules are, what the hours are. And the ladies, there are 3 ladies that work in the elections and voters registration office, and they're there from 8 to 5, and they're very, very helpful. If you go to that website, you can send them emails personally from the Dawson County voter registration website, and that's listed below. And of course, here are the phone contact numbers as well. Next. General election, this is just a schedule on the calendar. All polls in Dawson County will be open from 7 to 7 with the election day being on the 3rd. If you want to vote in advance, it's already started on the 12th and will extend through the 30th. That will be conducted at 96 Academy Avenue where their offices are Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and they have 1 Saturday voting day on October 25th from 9 to 4. Wayne's done the research on Pickens County too. Oh, and here is where we vote for Dawson County. Thank you. Just across the street at 21, out the north gate at 2142 Hubbard Road is where Dawson County residents can vote. And Wayne's done the work with Pickens County as the board representative. Wayne?
So voting has started in Pickens County. The building for voting is adjacent across the street, if you will, from the tech center, the tech college. So as soon as you hit Cove Road and you make a left and you start into go up the hill past the wash areas, you'll see the tech college, and the very first right will take you down to a small building, which is the voting center for Pickens County. I voted yesterday. It took 2 hours and 37 minutes for me to vote. So a couple of recommendations. They had people arriving as early as 6:30, but if you're still there at 5 o'clock, however many people are in line, they'll continue to allow you to vote regardless of the time. I would recommend, particularly for those that have a little age on them, bring a chair, bring a small bottle of water. They do provide water in the line, but it's a longer process with COVID. But everything went very smoothly once you get in there. Now, there are 4 questions that you have to read and respond to. They will give you a sheet while you're in the line. If not asked for it, to read those, it will really speed up the voting process. One of them is quite lengthy. All of them have to do with various Pickens County activities, money, assessments, etc. There's a penny tax that they want to put on items in the county to support the school system. Just read it closely and make your own decision. Generally, though, the whole voting staff is very attentive to your needs. If you're handicapped in any way, there is a little bit of parking in the front. If you can't really stand in the line, park or have someone go in for you at the very front, talk to them briefly, and they'll give you instructions on how best to arrange yourself before you have to go vote, so you're not standing in the line. So they will try to make some accommodations. That's all I have. You can see the times shown on the slide.
Thanks, Wayne. Any comments from the board?
Yeah, I have a question, or it's not a question, it's something, it's for Wayne. A couple of weeks ago, a property owner approached me. She lives in Pickens County, but she had mentioned, given the importance of this election, it's important to get maximize voter turnout. And she had asked about a ride share program down to Pickens County. She said that she'd be more than happy to provide transportation to someone that may not have the ability to get down there themselves. Given COVID, there's certainly reluctance to share rides, things like that. But in any event, it was the thought that it was an idea she had. I thought I'd mention it to you, and if there's any thoughts on if this is a worthwhile initiative that we may want to consider, I don't know, acting as a clearinghouse, or maybe there would be some other suggestions how we could facilitate this.
Let's take a look at it. I'll talk with Scott and we'll see. Obviously with COVID, people may be reluctant to travel with someone they aren't familiar with, or who may have had a lot of other family members here up from Atlanta or so forth. So normally I would say that wouldn't be as hard. It might be a little more complicated.
Right.
Let Scott and I kind of think about what we might be able to do. And I'll also talk to Pickens County again to see how they could accommodate that.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thanks for the thought, Regis.
Well, I thank the property owner. It wasn't original thought.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we're revisiting with Bob Crouch. He's been doing some ongoing work with the Big Canoe Rental Property Agreement and has some updates. Your microphone.
You really want to hear this?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. The property owner satisfaction survey that we sent out earlier in the year highlighted some concerns by property owners over tenants in Big Canoe. Any action that we take has to consider the rights and respect for tenants and property owners. The board's been reviewing the concerns and assessing the possible actions. The first result is a note that we are sending sent to renters outlining their responsibilities and the POA responsibilities. This is going to clearly establish expectations on the limits of property owner responsibilities and POA responsibilities and our enforcement role. We're working on a new agreement to be signed by those who rent their property that will establish consistent information regarding our rules and regulations. There was a task force that was, not a task force, a work group from the Leadership Big Canoe in April of 2018 that made some of these recommendations, and we're reviewing those and seeing what can be implemented. So we are going to investigate and see what other actions are appropriate to take at this time. That's it, Lou.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, Bob, quick question. I mean, I think these regulations are a major step forward, but certainly when you establish a regulation for it to be effective, there has to be enforcement, and then there has to be some sort of consequence for violation of these regulations and rules. Do you think we're covered by existing governing documents, or do you think that might be the next step in possibly looking at, you know, again, enforcement and consequences, you know, to look where there might be holes, where we need to shore things up?
I think the rules that we put in place in the 2007, 2008 are well done. I think a review is in order, and when we review the governing documents, that's something that should be done. I think one of the things that the task force, I keep saying task force, the work group from Leadership Big Canoe recommended was, because they did a survey of almost 900 property owners, some rented, some who didn't rent, and said the understanding and awareness of those rules was lacking, and they needed to be communicated in multiple ways so people understood what those rules were. And I think it's more at this time a communication to those rules, and because of our efforts, we the board took the initiative. It is now in the hands of Scott and his staff, and they are identifying the most commonly violated rules, the rules that need to be communicated, so that there's like a top 10 list that go to the tenants as they rent. Scott, do you have anything to add to that?
I would just say in conversations with Chief Ricky, I think he would agree with that 100%. That most of the time when a property owner calls and says, hey, there's noise next door, or the lights are shining in my window or whatever, and we send an officer out, usually it's a case where the people are compliant. It's just that once they're informed, but they had no idea what the rules and regulations were. And, you know, whoever rented them the property did not, you know, provide them with anything. They certainly didn't go on our website ahead of time, you know, to try to even find where the rules and regulations were. So, you know, it's first and foremost, I think, a communication problem. And then, you know, I think once we identify people that just refuse to conform, I think we certainly have some good teeth in our existing rules and regulations. And since I've been here, we've definitely been enforcing them. So let's I think we focus on the communication first and then see where that leads us.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah, good question.
Any other comments? Okay. Next on our agenda is an update provided from Candace, who's been working diligently with the Capital Contribution Fund. Candace? Microphone?
On Monday, October 19th, can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. The board is going to vote on whether to move forward with a property owner vote for a capital contribution fee for 2020 or wait until the first quarter of next year, 2021. As some background information, a master plan and funding concept was introduced to the property owners, as many of you may remember, in the December town hall meeting. But due to weather-related issues in early February of 2020, when the 2019 board planned to review these key projects in this meeting in 2020 of February, that included the CCF proposal. Then there was the fall of election of the board of directors that were moved to the end of February that would have outlined the details of the master plan concept and CCF. So these were not introduced. The weather-related issues and the change in the election of the board, and then adding to that, the pandemic extended the timeline of really addressing what was a very pertinent and urgent issue that the 2019 board introduced in the fall of, or excuse me, in the winter of 2020. So as a consequence of this, Bob Crouch asked the CCF work group to be formed in April-May timeframe this year to finally evaluate, okay, go back to the beginning, alternative funding sources for our master plan, proposed amount of fees if we went through a capital contribution fee process, and then the projected funds required to maintain and enhance our common properties along with the current capital reserves available. So our capital contribution work group had discussions on projected cash flows available compared to projected cash flows available. And these were vetted over multiple meetings with the director of finance and the finance committee chair. And also the work group received input from the long range planning committee. So in the final analysis, we understood that the priorities over this 10-year master plan will continue to be dynamic as the long range planning committee continues to evaluate the priorities, while a process has been formulated to ensure that once a master plan project is selected to move forward, the due diligence from start to finish has the appropriate checks and balances. So based on the solid commitment received from the voting for Creek 9 and the positive response to approving Creek 9, this is why we're looking at this for voting either by the end of the year or in first quarter of 2021.
Interesting. Any comments or questions from the board? Thank you, Candace. Appreciate that. As Candace mentioned regarding the work with the Long Range Planning Committee, Hal Bish is next up on the agenda, and he's here to provide the community with some project updates and also announce the new members that he has on board.
Just a little bit of background. Long Range Planning had 3 slots opening up for the 2021 year. We had 14 very well qualified candidates. Each candidate submitted a resume. The resumes were reviewed by the full committee. The committee chose to advance 6 candidates for in-person interviews. After those interviews, we've chosen 3. The first candidate is Gay Abbott. Gay's been a resident of Big Canoe, excuse me, since 2006, full-time since 2012. She's retired from the financial industry. She's a graduate of Leadership Big Canoe and has served on a number of committees in Big Canoe, including the Leadership Big Canoe Board, the Board of Smoke Signals, the Wellness Collaborative Community Center Committee, and the Knowledge Series Advisory Board. The second candidate is Anu Cezina. Anu is a relatively newcomer to Big Canoe. He's a retired civil engineer with extensive experience in soils analysis and property management. He's currently enrolled in Leadership Big Canoe, and he's currently serving on the Chimneys Renovation Work Group. The third candidate is Cecil Snyder. Pretty much everybody in Big Canoe knows Cecil. He's been around for a long time. He's been a resident since 2006. He's a retired aeronautical engineer and engineering manager. He's a graduate of Leadership Big Canoe. Again, like Gay, Cecil has served on a number of committees as either a member at large or as the chairperson. The committees he served on, a few of the committees he served on include the Long Range Planning Committee, where he currently serves as a member of the Land Use Task Force, the chair of the Land Use Task Force. He served on the Governance Committee, the Board of Leadership Big Canoe, and again, as I say, a number of other committees. We really couldn't be more happy with the candidates we have. We thank them very much for stepping up. It's a difficult and sometimes frustrating job, and we request that the board approve them.
Given the background on those candidates, it's hard to find anything to question. Does anybody else on the board have any questions they'd like to ask regarding this? Would you like to take a vote? All in favor for these members, would you please say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Those not favor? All right. Hal, I think you've got a great new team there to work with. Any other comments regarding projects?
At this point in time, the Chimneys project is going along apace. We addressed the board a week ago, presenting 2 plans for the Chimneys renovation. At that time, the board requested a 3rd plan. We'll be meeting towards the end of this month with the architect to discuss that plan. I think the renovation plans will make the Chimneys a far more useful facility to the community as a whole. In the past, because we leased it out to Talk of the Town, we had no access to it as a community. The approach that we've taken to the renovation in the Chimneys is that it should be first a community facility available for meetings, community groups, so on and so forth, something that's a little bit more accessible and less costly than meetings at the clubhouse. So a clubhouse alternative, if you will. Along with that was a requirement that we use it for wedding and banquets as it has been used in the past. So with those two functionalities in mind, that's been our goal. And I think we've got a pretty good solution. In fact, a choice of 3 solutions. The only other comment that I have, we are currently looking and evaluating potential sites for a new post office. This is definitely long range. The current post office we've got is at best somewhat tired, but it's got a new roof on it. It's got a new coat of paint, but the time is coming when it will need to be replaced. And as part of our mandate, we're looking at potential alternatives for a new post office. We'll be, Rochester and Associates will be conducting a feasibility study on 2 sites in the village core. And when that feasibility study is done, long range planning will report back to the board.
Excellent report. Thank you, Hal, and the committee, Long Range Planning Committee, for all that you do. We appreciate your time.
Well, thanks for the approval on the new members. I'm really happy to have them.
Outstanding. That ends up with all the formal listing there we have for the program. I wanted to know if any members had any thoughts or comments that they would like to add at this time.
You forgot me, Lou.
I forgot you. I forgot you, Regis. Now, Bob Crouch made me do that.
It's catching.
Why didn't you remind me?
Forget
Early?
me.
I'm guilty.
Totally
I'm
skipped
guilty.
over it. We've got the Creek 9 campaign update from Regis Volinsky.
So Bob told you to forget Regis. That's how he made you do that? That's okay.
I said, just act just like I do, Regis. It'll be fine.
Okay, this Creek App 9 campaign is update. Well, I'm happy to say that the update is that campaign is now in our rearview mirror. I think everybody's seen the results of the vote. We had a 64% quorum, which is a very high, well, that says 49%. So it's actually it's actually 62%, yes, 64%. And that was an error. The 49 versus 64 was a error that was made and discovered by Malden and Jenkins, our public accounting firm. So that is a very high participation rate, and 75% of the property owners who voted voted in favor of the project. So I think we can say that that is a mandate. And I think there's two messages here that I take from this. One is at the very outset of the campaign, we talked about the vision, the Big Canoe vision statement, which is to be the preeminent mountain community in the southeastern United States. And the team went on to say that our amenities are a very important part of what makes us preeminent. And I believe by their vote, the property owners agreed with that. They bought into that vision, and they bought into the fact that our amenities are important to achieving that vision. So I would like to thank all the property owners who voted, whether they voted for or against, but your participation is certainly very much appreciated by the board. The second thing that I think, at least I would like to believe that this vote tells us, is that the property owners have some degree of confidence in this management team and this board to execute this project. And that's kind of what I'd like to talk about today, with the execution and the board's role in the execution of this project. My opinion is that it is oversight, establishing expectations, monitoring progress, and then holding the management team responsible for accomplishing these objectives. So that's my vision. We're certainly not going to get involved with the day-to-day management of this. Scott has developed the plans for an oversight committee, which is going to, and I'll let Scott talk more about that if he wishes. There will be a board liaison to that committee, but as all liaisons are concerned, or how they function, is that they will not be active participants. They will be, like the name implies, a liaison to the board. And I wish to volunteer for that role, and I think Scott would find that to be acceptable as long as the rest of the board buys off on it. Now, as far as the oversight is concerned, to my way of thinking, there's really four things we need to monitor. The first two are kind of obvious. One is that the budget. We need to make sure that this project is brought in at or below the $2.2 million that the property owners approved for the project itself. Now, on top of that, there is a contingency, but as it stands right now, it's imperative that our management team meets that or exceeds that $2.2 million budget. The other thing is a schedule. And I have asked Scott, and he has agreed to develop a detailed budget as well as a time phase project schedule for what's going to happen pretty much now until when the golf course reopens. Now, those two are obvious. The third, it may not be so obvious, but one of the things, and I will read from the ballot language that the property owners approved, that they approved the funding of this project, which involves the golf course will be rejuvenated in accordance with the designs prepared by Bergen Golf Designs. So it's very important. Property owners gave us, pretty much our marching orders. We are going to modify or rejuvenate this course as Bill Bergen, the golf architect, has envisioned. So it's important that we stay true to that certainly there's going to be changes and tweaks along the way, but the expectations of the property owners, and I believe the expectations of the board, is that when this project is finished, it's going to look pretty much like those drawings that were posted down in the clubhouse. And then finally, it may be a little bit premature. Certainly it's going to be relevant in 2022, but you may all remember that the management team developed kind of a projection as to what they thought the financial performance of the golf amenity could be after this rejuvenation was complete. And it involved a fairly significant improvement to the bottom line. And again, that's not going to happen next year, but I think the board that is in place at that time needs to make sure that the management team is held accountable for delivering on what those improved financial projections were. So that's pretty much what all I've got. If there's any questions, comments, the one thing I would like to confirm with the board is the appointment of the liaison. And I'd certainly be happy to answer any additional questions that you might have, or if Scott has anything he would like to add.
I would just say that there's nothing that Regis says that scares or bothers me. For those who work for me, they know I'm a fanatic about schedules and numbers. So schedules and numbers are good, and we will have them and we will watch them. The committee that we've formed basically is got right now a placeholder for a board liaison. I think we'll reach out to someone from the WGA to have on board. I think that would be smart as well, since a lot of what we're doing is to reconfigure the course a little bit to make it easier to play for those who are learning or can't drive 500 yards off the tee. Bill Bergen is on that team, Lydell Mack, our superintendent, and we've asked Whitney Krause, who is the co-founder of Bobby Jones Links, who has done more golf courses than I have played. He will absolutely be part of that as well. I would also say it's kind of fun. We had our first meeting, and it's really nice to see Bill Bergen not only is a great golf course architect and has a wonderful reputation, but his parents have a home here, and he is excited beyond belief to be doing this project. This is I think because of his relationship with Big Canoe, it's got a very big spot in his heart for what he's going to do here, and his vision for how wonderful this is going to be and what it's going to mean to our future. So that enthusiasm is contagious, and I think great things will come out of this relationship. So we are perfectly fine with everything that Regis talked about.
That's good news. And Regis, I'm kind of glad that this just happened to occur your presentation occurred at the end of the meeting, because it's so clear that you've done a lot of in-depth thinking, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how this project progresses. I think the residents of Big Canoe will be very proud of their vote and their confidence in you. Thank you.
It's not in me, it's in the board, and more importantly, the management team, and the board.
I understand. There are many behind you.
Show the wisdom and restraint to work on the business rather than in the business.
Correct.
We had a saying, we shoot 'em, you skin 'em. So I think we've shot it. Now it's up to Scott and his team to skin it.
Well, thanks for all you do. I appreciate it. Any more comments or thoughts from the board?
Yeah, Lou, let me make a quick comment. In the last week or two, Phil Baldwin has done some reports on sales in Big Canoe, and we've had a meeting where somebody else talked about a realtor commenting on the demographics of the new owners. And Scott mentioned to me about the number of new children that are coming into Big Canoe. I think we as a board need to start thinking about having another census so that we can understand the demographics. And I think in thinking about the demographics, we need to understand work from home children and understand what we want to achieve in that census. It's been almost 3 years now since 2018, since the last census, and I think we've changed quite a bit.
I think that's a great idea. We probably need to pursue that pretty quickly to get something lined out. Any more comments from the board?
That would be very helpful in developing the strategic plan next year.
That's true too.
Yep.
Good point. Well, if there's no more comments, we will close this work session and open it up for questions and from the residents.
Lou, just to formalize things, the liaison to the Golf Oversight Committee, if we could just take a vote and confirm that you folks feel that I'm deserving of that important position.
Okay. Board members, it has been presented that Regis Valinsky be appointed as a board liaison for the golf project. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those not in favor? Opposed? Regis, it looks like you've got the project. And I know you'll do well. Well, I think it's time for questions and answers from the community. If it looks like Justin would be handling that.
All right, we have one question
Oh, there you are, Tim. Thanks.
from Bill Shaw, lot 404. He asks, Regis, it's not your vision, it's your business plan to achieve it. Expect to see the plan by the December meeting. Will this happen? Is this not a BJL commitment?
Well, I've talked to Bill a number of times in quite a bit of detail about this. A business plan, it's not the board's responsibility to develop a business plan. That is in the business of Big Canoe. So I am not going to comment on Bobby Jones and as Scott mentioned the other, I think it was our last meeting, it's not Bobby Jones and Scott's team, it's a management team. So Scott, if you want to address Mr. Shaw's question, feel free, but the board is not, as I said before, a business plan is a part of managing the business of Big Canoe. Board would certainly have input, we would have oversight, we would have comments, but it's basically not a board responsibility, it's a management team responsibility. So Scott, you want to comment on Mr. Shaw's question?
Sure. I've spent a fair amount of time talking to Bill about this topic as well. In my past life, and I think this is what Regis and the board intends, the board will work to build a strategic plan in the first quarter. And that strategic plan, will last far beyond 1 year for Big Canoe. And it will talk about, I imagine it will talk about employees, and it will talk about the other elements of the character of Big Canoe and what businesses we want to be in and what businesses we don't want to be in and things of that nature. And we will have input to that. once we determine that strategic plan, then it's my job to take that and turn it into a series of strategies, tactics, and key measurables that then I will be held accountable for and my senior staff will be held accountable for. And that way the strategic plan flows through strategies, tactics, operations, and right down to the goals that we're going to measure people on. So that is a process that the board and I will be linked at the hip on through first quarter of next year. In the meantime, why wait? There are a few key things that, a few key investments that are on the table, such as the chimneys that Hal was teeing up earlier. And so I owe the board in the next few weeks, a number of business plans on things like the wedding business and the investment required and what are the strategic options around that and what kind of return we can expect from those investments. So there's some short-term things that we can do and that we need to lay out and get board approval on before we look for solving the world peace and hunger, which we will be working on in first quarter. So
yeah, there's just one thing I would like to emphasize, and I know Bill and I don't see eye to eye on this, and I don't want this to get too personalized of a discussion, but I, unlike Bill, do not think there is a business plan for Big Canoe. There's going to be a strategic plan, as Scott mentioned, but Lydell Mack does not need a business plan to maintain our golf course. Ricky Jordan does not need a business plan to operate our fire department. Now, do we need a business plan for the amenities? Absolutely. Do we need a business plan for the wedding and catering business? Absolutely. And do we need a business plan for our food and beverage? Absolutely. So there are discrete business plans that are needed, they are required, and I believe that we have talked with the management team about all three of those areas, and they will be available in the not too distant future. But an overall business plan for Big Canoe, I don't think that that's appropriate, and there are no plans, as far as I'm aware of, to develop one.
That's true. We're thinking more strategic plans and things of that nature. Tim, any more questions?
That wraps up the questions from the audience. Thank you for your answers.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I think we've had a great meeting and answered just very few questions, and we'll call this meeting closed.
Thank you, Lou. Well done.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lou.